Hey everyone, long time no see. It's Paul back with the hip hop debate. We are back and better than ever. As you can see, or if you're listening, you're about to hear, we have added a new member to the podcast. Kyle, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
The reason I decided to bring on Kyle is because before it was just myself talking about a topic the whole episode and not really debating anyone. The name of that podcast is Hip Hop Debate, but I never debated anyone. So I was like, you know what? I was thinking about bringing it back. I took the rest of 2019 off, and 2020 was a wash, even though it was probably the perfect time to do a podcast anyway.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to bring it back, but I want to have more of a debate style. Whether it's you want to say first take or just something where it's conversation going and talking by yourself. You're not really having much conversation, and even with the guests on, as I had Kyle on previously, as you can go listen back to those podcasts if you would like. It was more just kind of interviewing the person and just asking them questions and not really like conversing as much. So I was like, you know what? Let me bring Kyle on. So now that there are two hosts, the Hip Hop Debate is a more fitting name. So before we go any further, I just want to talk, just bring it up for the listeners, how we met and our friendship how it's started and how it is. We still are maintaining friendship. So what is it? We graduated 6 years ago, but we became friends 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's a long friendship. So so I remember with finding out you were my roommate and from Springfield College. I don't know if it was a letter or email, and us becoming friend requesting each other on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I remember you were saying you were going to bring a boombox and something else. That's like all I remembered.
Okay.
And I was like, cool, I don't have that, so I'll bring the PS3. And we became roommates, and it was honestly like we were Springfield. My mom always says, and I always say, it was like they did. Some people have terrible roommates, but Springfield did a great job of pairing us because we have almost all the same interests. At least in our major interests are pretty much similar. We might have different, like we like similar music, but I like a little different. You like some other stuff. Sports, I think, is basketball still your favorite sport, you would say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so basketball's always been my favorite as well, but we always like football, basketball, baseball, hockey, stuff like that. So yeah, we always we had a good connection immediately, and we just were able to vibe off that. And then my dumbass sophomore year decided to live with no offense if Connor Prone is listening, I don't think he is, but I chose to live with him as Kyle was surprised by, and that was an interesting year. But then junior and senior year we lived together again, and then it was a while until we saw each other again, I think. Oh, were you there at the Halloween thing at the girls' house? Okay.
Yep, I was there. Yep. So yeah, and I think we came to a homecoming game. Did we go to a homecoming game like the year after we graduated, like a football game?
That was the last time I was at Springfield, was 2015 after we graduated that one time.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. So yeah, so it had been a while. It had been a while since we saw each other. We stayed in touch, but we didn't really actually like see each other face to face for a while there.
Yeah, 2016 you ended up coming to visit me.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Yeah, and then I think after that, then there was in 2016, at the end of that year was when there was Friendsgiving at Nicole's. Mm-hmm. Shout out Nicole. And then after that, I think it was a long time, right?
Yeah, probably not until I came to see you again in Carolina.
2020, yeah. So it was a while. It was like 4 years, just about a little over 3 years, I would say. So yeah, it was a while, but we were able to maintain that friendship. And now that we saw each other twice this year recently, I feel like we've always communicated here and there, but I feel like with this podcast, it'll just make it even stronger than it already is.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I guess that's everyone listening. That's our relationship in a nutshell. So as I think I know the answer, but obviously our listeners don't. So how did you get into hip hop, Kyle?
Hip hop, I had kind of a very unusual introduction to hip hop. I think, like most kids, when I was younger, I always, listened to like, the Eminems and Outkast was a big group growing up, so I listened to them a lot. But for me, actually, I was thinking about this all week because I was like, when did my like love for hip hop actually like start?
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. Like I kept thinking about like when I was younger growing up, like I always used to listen to like Linkin Park. Like they were like a great group for me. And I was fascinated by the fact that they were like rock and rap a little bit. Like they had some rap elements, and that kind of like I think that's kind of like opened the door for me a little bit, was just listening to them. And then that kind of like around that same time was the same time that like the 8 Mile soundtrack came out, and that was a really big like deal. So like I really loved that a lot. I think that was actually probably like the first rap album I ever bought like on CD, but like I was too young to buy the parental advisory version, so
Yeah,
I had to get
explicit.
like, yeah, I had to get like the clean version from like Walmart or something like that. So that was kind of started, and then I think what really like pushed it for me was actually like two songs. So like in high school, I think two of the biggest songs that I really enjoyed listening to in the hip hop community was Drake, Best I Ever Had. That was like a really good song that I just loved. And then around the same time, I actually was really into Kid Cudi, Day and Night.
Yeah.
I loved those two songs so much. And that was kind of like the start to like, all right, like, let me explore a little bit more, like, because I loved both of those albums. And so that was kind of like the start of like me like listening to hip hop albums. And from there I did like everything. Like I would listen to stuff that was new. I explored things that came out in like the 90s and the 80s. And so from there, that kind of just like helped me like become like a big hip hop fan. So and I still like enjoyed the Kanye's before Drake and Kid Cudi came out and everything like that. But it was those two songs that really like pushed me to become more of like a hip hop listener.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, from there, it was just kind of history. And I just, throughout the years, just kind of been exploring. I think I started listening to Illmatic my freshman year of college. So it was
Oh
a long
wow.
time. Yeah, it was a long time before I finally like found like stuff that I liked to listen to like frequently.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like how I got interested in it. How about you? How did you get interested? I don't think I've ever heard a story about how you got interested in hip hop before.
So it was 2002-ish. The rapper by the name of Cisco came out the Thong song, and that just changed my life. No, I did love that
Wow.
song, but realistically, it was kind of similar to you in terms of the original. Like Eminem was just my favorite. Him and 50 Cent. Like I feel like because we're obviously 93, so we were
Yep.
right in that. We were 10 years old, 10, 11, 12. That
Hmm.
was they were huge at that time. Eminem with like the Eminem Show, 8 Mile
Yep.
soundtrack,
Yep.
and then
And you
50
couldn't
Cent with
escape it. You couldn't
yeah,
escape it because everybody was listening to that.
yeah,
So even if you didn't like hip hop or you like weren't experienced in it, like everybody was playing and you're like, "Oh, okay, I like that song." You
yeah.
know? So,
So yeah, I became a big fan of Eminem that way, and then 50 Cent, and then I just kind of went from there. Eminem was always my favorite
mm,
until about like 2000, which 2008 or nine, and then I kind of like Kanye, even though now he's my favorite like of all time.
mhm,
But he, I wasn't like I listened to stuff, and I think I bought Late Registration, but besides that, I didn't really listen to it. Then I loved Stronger at the time. I like had it as my ringtone. I loved it. It was like everything. And
mhm.
then what elevated it, which was most people like this went the opposite, was the VMAs
Yeah.
and Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just was like, you know what? He's fucking right. Like Taylor, like, and whatever everyone feels, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, just not because of that, just musically, just that's not my type of music. I
Mhm.
understand she's one of the biggest artists, if not the biggest right now. Her and Drake probably, but so at the time I was like, Single Ladies is like that music video is iconic. Like it's
Right.
still that dance. You do that dance and people know what it is.
Right.
So it was just like, oh, he's right. He did it in a terrible way, but he's right.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
then he like that was right after 808. So then I got into 808s after that, and then he went in like in Hawaii, and he went to like he was in like a hole, like he was secluded from everyone. He just had people fly into him,
Mhm.
and then I that hyped me so much for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy when that came out in 2010. I was waiting. I don't know if you remember Good Fridays. You remember those?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, every week, every during the summer leading up to that album, there was a new song, and I think those songs, if you put that in an album today or at the time, that would be a very good album because those songs
Yeah.
were like those are throwaways and those were great songs.
Yep.
So then had excitement for that, and then so I've just been a Kanye fan since. But then obviously, in 2013, I that's when I heard Travis Scott for the first time, and now he's up there. He's in like 1B to me. I'm just a big
Mhm.
fan of obviously the lyricism isn't all there, but the vibe I would say, and
Yeah.
the way he uses auto tune I think is better than anyone. And just the heavy like him like because they both work with Mike Dean a lot. I love heavy synths
Mhm.
and just Mike Dean. I've actually been looking. I haven't listened to it yet, but a Mike Dean he has like an album just of production, and I'm like, this might be right up my alley.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, that's how I got into hip hop. So they're like they started kind of initially because Eminem was the biggest musician at the time. He was just
Yeah.
going double platinum, triple platinum. So and
Yep.
then we obviously had our own ways into getting into it. But because I'm like you're definitely your musical listening, the way the amount of music you listen to and the different types of music are definitely more are broader than what I listen to. I'm strictly not strictly, but mainly hip hop and R&B, and I do listen to some like I like Harry Styles album or
Mhm.
just other like I love Miley Cyrus's album, The Last of Plastic Hearts. I
Mhm.
love that, and like Lord not Pure Heroin, the second one, Melodrama. Like that's one of my
Yeah.
favorites of all time. That's like top 5 albums for me ever.
Wow.
So like, yeah, I listened to it. I listened to it when it came out, but last year was like I was like, let me listen to it again, and I was like, holy crap, like this album's fire. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you listen to like like almost everything, and you have a broader range. But we all
Yeah.
kind of started, and then we kind of are now we're here where we have a lot of similar tastes.
Yeah.
So the discussion this week, which we talked about and about to tell everyone, is a big discussion going on right now because they were released within 5 days of each other. It's Donda by Kanye or Drake, or Certified Lover Boy by Drake.
Mhm.
We're gonna get into that, but before I do, I just wanted to talk about anything that's going on currently in hip hop. I was gonna bring up we talked about it before we went live, the Wu Tang Show. So
Mm.
um, you said you haven't seen season 2 so far. I've seen all 4 episodes. It is really good. Like I was saying before we started, episode 4 really it goes into the meeting or creation of Wu Tang. They're all on a ferry and they just are avoiding each other and stuff like that. But it's a really good episode. So
Mm.
that's something that I'm excited for the rest of the season to come out and watch all of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great show. I watched the first season, and I think I had to have watched all 10 episodes within like 2 days,
Yeah,
because I was just so invested in like what's going to happen next, because they do a great job of kind of like leaving you on like a cliffhanger almost every episode. Like you're like, oh god, what's going to happen next? Or the whole first season you're wondering like, when are they actually going to like be together, like
yep,
like a unit. And you don't really see that in season 1, which is kind of cool, because like you can see like all of the stuff that happened before they met up. Which is, and some of the things like I had no idea that, and I don't even know if it's true, but like I had no idea that Raekwon tried to kill Ghostface. Like it's
yeah,
just, like I never knew that, and I don't think you probably would unless you watch the show, So
yeah.
it's just a great watch, and yeah, I'm excited for season 2. I haven't watched any of it yet, but I'm excited for it. So it's
And
good.
I had no clue RZA had like a solo song before they
Yeah,
started. I had
yeah,
no clue about that. I was like, "What?" And then I googled, and it was actually I watched the video. It was very like they did very as well as they could, as close as they could to the original video.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, you put me onto that show. You told me about it, and I was like, you know what? I respect your taste in not just music, but in TV and movies. So I was like, let me check it out, and I was hooked too, just like you were. I was hooked immediately.
yeah,
It's so
yeah.
good.
And I love how they have some modern rap artists now playing some of those roles. Like I know
Yeah,
Dave East is Method Man, and
yeah.
Inspector Deck is Joey Badass, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Which
Um,
it might be a little spoiler to you. I think they Joey Badass is not in the show anymore. I think they chose a new
oh,
actor because
oh wow, okay.
I think they had like reintroduced Inspector Deck and it was
Mhm.
someone else and he wrote it on a wall. So I was like, that it
Oh,
clearly isn't Joey Badass. So yeah, I don't know if
okay.
something happened but
Yeah.
I didn't really read up anything on it. I just saw he was with Method Man and he wrote on a wall Inspector and I was like,
Huh.
okay, I guess they're
Interesting.
reintroducing him.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, But yeah, so that's what's going on. Another thing, I don't know if you listen to it. I don't know if you really know who he is. Baby Keem. Do you know who he is?
I've heard of him. Haven't really listened to anything that he's ever done. So, but I have heard of him. Yeah.
So I heard of him initially. Few months. He hit a single few like last year, 2 years ago. Orange Soda, which I just saw it. I never listened to it. Then he released a song with Travis Scott called "Do Rag Activity," and then he was on Donda. He's on the
Okay.
song with Travis Scott.
Yep.
He's the rapper at the end, and then he released a song with Kendrick, and I was like, all right, well, we haven't gotten Kendrick in years, so I'll take
Yeah.
anything I can get with Kendrick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's actually Kendrick's cousin.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and he signed to Kendrick. PG Lang is like Kendrick's label now, so
His
he
new
signed to
label. Okay.
Kendrick. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
he released his album last week, and it's surprisingly, I was very surprised. It was actually very good.
Hmm.
It's very different. He has 3 Kendrick features on there, so I was like,
Wow.
yeah, he has 2 verses and 1 chorus, but I'll take any
Okay.
Kendrick I can get at this point.
Yeah. See,
Um,
it's been a while.
yeah, that album is good, and we'll talk about that in future episodes. It's a very good album.
Cool.
And then, did you see anything about? I don't know if you heard Narcissist, Playboy Cardi.
No.
He's supposedly dropping Narcissist very soon. He said September, whatever, which was some point this week. He said he was going to release it, but it's
Wow.
Playboy Cardi, so I don't. We're
That's
probably going
kind
to
of.
get it like in 23 or something like that.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say because that's kind of soon. Because didn't he just drop
Whole Lot of
uh,
Red
Whole
was
Lot of
at
Red
the
like
end of
last year, right?
yeah, it was at the end of 2020.
Yeah. So
So
still kind of fresh.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
so yeah, I'm excited for that. We talked about this previously, but I didn't really listen to my few songs here and there. But I got in a whole lot of red, and you said uh, what's Dial-It is
Dial it.
better.
Yeah.
I still haven't listened to it in full, but I was a big fan, and a lot of people have mixed reviews on Whole Lot of Red, but I was
Yeah.
actually a big fan of it. So I'm surprised and excited for his new album to come out.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely like both. I think both albums have they have very different sounds to them. Like I feel like Whole Lotta Red is a lot more like he's trying to go for like a punk thing,
Yeah,
just kind of like going like crazy and just like making like noise. Whereas like Dial It, I feel like was a lot more like kind of more like psychedelic, kind of something like Travis Scott would kind of do.
yeah,
And just like the beats and sonically, it just sounds a lot more like psychedelic and kind of trippy. So I kind of like that he kind of branches out on sounds a little bit, but he's also doing sounds that are like not common with other artists.
yeah.
Which is he just keeps me interested. Like his voice, I can't stand his voice.
The
Like
baby
whenever
voice.
yeah, like I just can't stand it. But like when he puts that with like these crazy beats and stuff like that, like it sounds interesting and it keeps me interested. So yeah, so I'm excited for if he's releasing a new album. I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, and last before we get into the topic, Utopia. I don't know if you watched the VMAs at all. I think we actually talked last week right before they started. Travis
Yeah.
Scott won for best hip hop video for franchise, but he at the end he said Utopia coming soon. And me as a Travis Scott fan, I was like eating that up, and he's tweeted some stuff this week that it's coming soon and stuff like that. Obviously, that could mean it's coming soon can mean any day, either
Right.
tomorrow or 2 years from now. So
Yeah.
coming soon doesn't really help me, or help the release date, but I'm excited for that. So hopefully we get that soon. And I'm just waiting for new Travis Scott because it's been 3 years now, almost
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as Kendrick.
Sometimes I still play Astroworld like it dropped yesterday though. Like
Yeah,
it's
I still
still
love
and
it.
same with Rodeo too. Like those two albums. I just I'll put it on sometimes. I'll just be like, oh man, this is so good.
Yeah,
And yeah, I wasn't crazy about the what is it,
birds.
Birds in the Trap, Say
Yeah,
Goodnight or whatever. I wasn't too crazy about that one, but yeah, Rodeo and Astroworld I liked a lot. So yeah, that's if he's released another album too, that'd be great.
yeah. So we'll see. So now we'll get into the long-awaited album discussion. Donda versus Kanye West. So I was just going to give some quick facts about each album before we get into the discussion. So Donda, I'll talk about first. So it was released August 29th. It was the album rollout. It had 3 listening events, 2 in Atlanta and 1 at Mercedes-Benz. No, 2 in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then the last one at Soldier Field in Chicago, where he's from. At the second listening event in Atlanta, he ended up levitating to the sky towards the roof of the stadium. And then at the listening event in Chicago, he ended up rebuilding his childhood home and setting himself on fire. There's obviously some symbolism in there. I don't care to go too in depth or look. I never cared to look too in depth to the symbolism with.
Yeah.
I understand the home, but the burning himself on fire and then remarrying Kim Kardashian, I don't know. But he obviously he does everything with a point. He doesn't do anything for nothing. So Then he ended up releasing that following Sunday. He ended up releasing Donda. It is, as we talked about before we started, it is 27 songs. 23 are original songs, and then 4 are part twos of some of the songs early in the album. It's almost 2 hours. It comes in at an hour and 49 minutes, which is longer than some movies. So you got to strap in, and if you want to listen to the whole thing, you got to be ready. So another quick fact: Donda sold 309 units in the first week, according to Billboard. So that was the number one of this year until Drake released his album, but that was the highest selling first week this year. If you don't know already, Donda is the name of Kanye's late mother, which the album is named after. And if you haven't listened to Kanye at any point in his career, you can hear that she is his biggest inspiration besides now his children. And as with Jesus is King, this album is heavily religious themed. A lot of choir, a lot of religious musical instruments used, and a lot of just themes that are religious based. And then I'll talk about something else in a minute. So then Certified Lover Boy, that was released on September 3rd, the Friday following the release of Donda. His album rollout was a little different, a little quieter. It was released on August 27th, sorry. He revealed that the release date of Certified Lover Boy during a short, to me it looked like a ransom video in Sports Center. Did you catch that video?
Yeah.
It was like CLB September, was it 3rd? Right. And it was like, God, it looks like the Joker from the Dark Knight, like ransom video.
And it was on ESPN, you said, right?
Yeah, it was during a Sports Center commercial, like right before it went back. I was like, right. What? And of course, obviously everyone caught it, but initially, you're probably watching that. I wasn't watching it, I saw it on Twitter, but I was like, what is this? Imagine watching that live and being like, who took over my TV or something?
And that was during the finals, wasn't it? Wasn't it during the NBA finals? Is that why?
No, Donda was during the NBA finals. The song with No Child Left Behind, the one with the lady track star from the Olympics.
Okay, yeah.
I think Sha'Carri Richardson is her name. So then for Certified Lover Boy, did that. And then on September 1st, 2 days before the release, he put billboards all around the United States, Canada, and Nigeria, revealing the album's featured artists according to their hometown. So like Jay-Z, he put New York, Travis Scott, Houston, Atlanta had a bunch, and like California, Chicago. So he did that all around. So Certified Lover Boy is 21 songs, an hour and 26-minute runtime, still fairly long for an album as well. And then Certified Lover Boy sold 613 in the first week. So that's almost double of what Kanye sold, which is wild to think. 613 according to Billboard, which is a lot of units. He already went gold first week. The album cover, we'll talk about that next. So yeah, I guess we'll talk about Donda first. So what was your overall feeling, and what's your thought on Donda?
I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I guess for me, it all started like with just like the listening parties. I feel like I've kind of been done with Kanye for a while. Yeah. I think it probably started with The Life of Pablo. Like I liked that album. I thought it was good. But like the whole, like that album was supposed to be like he releases it, but then like he fixes it, and then like he fixes it again, and it's just like a never ending like cycle. Yeah. And while I liked the finished product that he finally like stopped like updating it and stuff, and whatever he finished with, I enjoyed. I kind of saw it as like a downward spiral, like he's like, yeah. He's like, he's going to a bad place. and so I did enjoy it, but I was like, at this point, like what has he said that hasn't already been said, Yeah. And I think he kind of grabbed my attention with like his next album, which was Ye, I think, right?
I think Ye ended up being his next.
And that caught my attention because it was one of, how many albums did he release that year as a producer and rapper? Yeah, so it was
5.
Tiana Taylor, Pusha T, Kids See Ghost, Nas, and then his own. So that album being a part of all those caught my attention. So I was like, okay, I gotta listen to that. And I enjoyed that album too. Like I thought it was great. because I thought it was a really good like mental health kind of like album, and you don't see a lot of that in hip hop.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
so like, and then Jesus is King, like that again caught my attention just because he was saying that it was like a gospel album. So it's like, okay, Kanye releasing a gospel album, like I gotta listen to that.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like my overall like interest, like I don't feel that way anymore. Like when Kanye is gonna drop it, I'm like, oh my god, like I gotta stay up till midnight, I gotta listen to it, you know. I don't feel that way, and I didn't really feel that way coming into this album either. There was, like you said, there was like 3 listening parties. I didn't watch one of them. And
Yeah, I
you know,
remember you talking about the first one. You were like,
yeah,
"Oh, I watched. I was watching The Office or something. I totally forgot it was on." And I was like,
yeah,
"Oh yeah, well, it sounds
yeah.
good."
Yeah, and I just didn't I don't have that kind of like same like interest in him anymore. And honestly, like if we weren't doing this podcast and having this kind of like talk about it, I probably still wouldn't have listened to it today.
Yeah,
You know, but I gave it a shot, and you know, my first like reaction in terms of like just listening to the album itself, you know, a lot of the first like couple, or not couple, but first few tracks, like I actually kind of enjoyed. You know, like I really enjoyed hearing Jay-Z come back on a Kanye track with like the second song.
yeah,
I thought that was really great, and it's great that they're still, you know, kind of connected. I know they had like a kind of falling out, but I didn't really care like what Jay or Kanye say on that track. I was just happy to see both of them back together.
yeah.
Um, and so I did enjoy that track. I also really loved Off the Grid, um,
Oh yeah,
with
with Playboy Cardi and was it? How do you say his name?
I think Fivio Foreign, I think
I
is his
think,
name.
but I've heard someone say five, like it just five. So I was like, is it? But
Uh,
Fivio, I think
yeah,
we'll just say Fivio Foreign for what it's
yeah,
spelled that way, so we'll say it that way.
yeah. But yeah, no, I like that because I thought Playboy Cardi had a really good part in it. Like it wasn't like anything spectacular, but I think that he like fit that beat, you know.
Yeah,
And that was, and I thought Fivio's verse was just great. I would love to hear like the actual like uncut version of that, because
yeah,
he says a lot of swears in that song, and so a lot of times it's just like, you know, really choppy, but like his flow and his bars I think are just really great.
yeah.
So I enjoyed that track, and I enjoyed a lot of the other tracks like in like the first like half, like, you know, just to name a few other ones, like Hurricane. I think The Weeknd has a great part on
Oh
that.
man,
Um,
let me just say that when
yeah.
the weekend's part is great, but when "Don't Let Me Drown," when he says that in the choir, I
Hmm.
feel like I'm floating. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it's euphoric.
Yeah. So yeah, so I like that song a lot. You know, Praise God is another one.
I like that.
Jonah.
I like that Praise God he has his mom on the chorus, which and then it's like a dark like trap, and it's cool to see like his mom into the just it's all she has on that song, but it's just like it hits hard with the
Yeah.
chorus.
Yeah, and to kind of go off of that too, like I do love, I mean, the whole album is named after her, right? So
Yeah,
I do love that she has like, he added some of these like little like sound clips of her like talking about, sometimes about Kanye, sometimes about just like, you know, political issues in general. Like I like the fact that he kind of incorporated that in there. And it really kind of like, for me, it kind of adds to the album itself as a whole, because again, it's named after her. And so like, while he's like, you know, like she was a very religious person, that's where he kind of gets his religion, like his religious ideas from.
yeah,
So I thought it was great that he like named the album after her, and had this whole concept of like, oh, it's going to be like, you know, spiritual, and we're not going to have any swears. Like I get that, but I think adding her like voice into the album itself was also just like a really good idea.
yeah.
Because it
Definitely.
kind of has the album like kind of like come full circle, you know.
Yeah.
um so yeah, and so I think for me, like I liked pretty much a lot of the songs up until I would say about the song 24. After that, like I don't know, there were some good songs there, but then, you know, like I don't know, then you get to the whole like the part twos, like Jail Part 2 and Okay Part 2.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of where it lost me, and I think that's kind of like a point where like we can say like, okay, like Kanye, like you had really great songs. If you had just kept it to like maybe like the first like 10 or 11, like this album would be amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, it kind of just gets a little bit boring once you kind of go past that. And yeah, so that was kind of my first reaction. I want to hear your response too. But like for me, like I was just not overly excited about this album at all. And listening to it, like it's okay. Like I'm not gonna play it over some of other Kanye's other work, you know.
Yeah.
And it's an album where like I would really have to like devote some time to listen to because it's 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that still gets me is like, do I really want to spend 2 hours of my day right now listening to this Kanye album again? So
Yeah.
so I don't know. Like I might revisit it. I might just play like my favorite tracks, but it's not like an album that like I can just sit and listen to and like rock out from like one song to the last song. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my first reactions. How about you? What were some of your first
So
reactions?
first reaction, I before I get into that, actually, I want to just say something else about it. The black album cover. What do you? I don't. I think it's just to basically just not distract from anything. I
Yeah.
think it was just like this is the album. You don't need any cover for it. There's no kind of like Yeezus, but like the opposite. Because everything's digital now, so you can't make it clear.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, I mean, like you said in the beginning, right? Kanye has a reason for everything that he does.
yeah,
So if there's not really like a true like if he hasn't said what that reason is yet, then who knows? Maybe we'll never know. But for
yeah,
him, he's got it in his head.
yeah.
Me personally, like I liked the album artwork that he had before he went with the all black
With
one.
the red like woman
Yeah,
figure. Yeah, I thought that would have been cool too.
yeah, so I thought it was kind of cool. Like it was like a very like contrasted like image. I think there was two. There was like two possible album artworks for that before he did the all black one.
Yeah,
And I thought the first one, yeah, the one that you talked about was really cool. So yeah, but I mean, it's Kanye. Like I said, like you said with Yeezus, like his album cover for that was just literally like a little
the
disc.
CD, the CD case. It was like
Yeah,
I bought the actual CD and it was a blank case with a red
yeah.
sticker like closing it.
Right, yeah, and the same with like Life of Pablo, right? Like that whole album cover was just like basically just like taking stuff and
Yeah,
just putting
there's
it
like
there and whatever.
yeah,
And then even Ye too, like Ye, he just takes a picture of a mountain and then writes Ye in green letters. So
and
it's
he wrote, I hate being
yeah,
bipolar. It's
I hate
awesome.
yeah. So you never know with him. Like again,
Yeah.
he always has a reason for what he does, but yeah,
So
it's whatever.
so for me with Donda, as I said earlier when describing my, my love for hip hop, he's my top artist of all time. So I always have a little like that feeling you said you used to get when like, oh man, Kanye dropped. I still get that. So I
Mhm.
watched the first listening party when we talked, and then I didn't watch the second or third. I was like, I just don't want to get suckered in again. Even though I
Yeah,
was getting suckered in because that following morning I didn't see, I would look for it immediately and then
yeah,
check Twitter, search Donda Kanye, and people like, no, everyone was saying, where the hell is it? So after
yeah.
the first one, I kind of gave up. And then when it dropped that Sunday morning, I was just looking at my phone, looking at, my music app. And then I saw, oh, Donda, all right, time to listen. So I listened to it, and the first thing to me that I noticed was the production. I personally think
Mhm.
if it's not, it's some of his best, if not his best production. Every song I think I love, even if I don't love the lyrics or the chorus or something like that. I love the production. Jail, like some songs like Jail, um, what else? Jail and Off the Grid, Hurricane, Praise God, like they Remote Control, Moon.
Mhm.
Uh, Come to Life, No Child Left Behind, Donda. I think they're all going to sound great live, and I think that's
Yeah.
kind of obviously going with him doing the um, the listening events. You kind of obviously got to hear that. So I loved the production initially. Then I initially was a huge fan of this album. I still am a very big fan, but as I've gone to listen to it more, it's kind of been like, all right, settle down a little more. But
Mhm.
I think this is one of his I top 4 or 5 albums, I would
Mhm.
say. Obviously he has what, 8 or 9,
Mhm.
or solo he has I think 8. So it's still like it's probably middle of the road for me, which is still middle of the road for Kanye is better than a lot of people still.
Mhm.
So this is just one of my favorite albums of all time of his. Um, he to me it's like a mix of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and um Life of Pablo and Jesus is King. I don't know why it
Okay.
got, because in terms of Jesus is King for the content, obviously it's not all religious, but it is
Mhm.
mainly a religious theme. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy for the sounds and the production, because that production on that album if not better, or they're, to me, they're one and two, the production.
Hmm.
And then Life of Pablo, just kind of like the rollout. He originally had, the listening event with Life of Pablo, and then he didn't
Yeah.
drop it, even though that I think was like a weekend. It
Hmm.
wasn't like a month. It was
Yeah.
just, I think he had the listening event on a Thursday or Friday, and then he did
Yeah.
SNL that Saturday. I think he dropped it like after he did SNL. So it
Right.
was within a few days. It wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
weeks. So I
And
think,
I could see that comparison too, because My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Life of Pablo, they also have like a lot of features,
yeah.
and this is the same. Like it has a lot of features on this album as well. So like I can definitely see like the comparison there for sure.
So I think also, as we're talking about features, so that's what I was going to say next is he's always in any point of his career, you could say his different eras, but from late college dropout to this, he's always used features strategically. He's always found, I think his features always tend to stand out too, in terms of the way he uses, if it's a singer, the way he can use their voice, or if it's a rapper, the way he puts them in the song. And I think on Donda, out of all his albums, it was the best use of his features, because you have
Mhm.
guys like The Weeknd. The Weeknd stole the show on that album.
Yeah.
Don Toliver, I'm a big fan of Don Toliver, and on Moon, like kind of like how I said with on on with The Weeknd on Hurricane,
Hmm.
I kind of like floating. That's the way I feel with, and Don Toliver sings on Moon. And Vori, I think Vori, he's on the song Jonah, and he's on a few other songs, and he just steals the show, especially Jonah when he starts the song, singing. And I love that part. And also Young Thug. I know you might not be a big fan of Young Thug, and you also didn't. You said you kind of lost interest after 24, which Remote Control is right after 24.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of that song. It's odd, and it's just that, but that's Young Thug, and Kanye's like a chameleon. He can kind of do everything in hip hop.
Yeah.
He can rap. He can fit in with everyone. So Young Thug is traditionally weird. So I
Yeah.
think him kind of just it being like a weird song. I think, and I love the ending. I don't know what that is or what it's from,
Hmm.
but it's a weird ending, and I think it fits perfectly. Um, so yeah, I think the features and the way he uses his features just makes it better. Um, and similar to Jesus King, this album is heavily religious themed, but with, like I said, better production, and some other themes are in it as well. Just not everything religious. Like Jesus King was very religious, but it also felt like he said a gospel album, so it really felt still hip hop in a sense, but it still felt like a gospel album. This is religious, but it doesn't feel as much like a gospel album. He has gospel
Yeah.
on it. He has, like I said, religious themes, and he
Hmm.
has the choir also on it, the Sunday service
Hmm.
choir on a song or two, but it just doesn't, it's not overwhelming, and it's used, I think, he was able to
Yeah.
blend it well, better than he did on Jesus King.
Yeah.
Um,
I really like Electronica's verse too
yeah.
on whatever the song was that he was on.
Uh,
I think
Jesus.
Jesus Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was listening to that, I was like, oh, I know this voice. Like I don't know who this is, but I know this voice. And then I was like, oh, this is Jay Electronica. This is a pretty good verse. So that's another song that, like, even though it's after kind of some of my favorites, I really like that verse a lot too. I wanted to ask you though, do you feel that like recently, like maybe like Life of Pablo, like after, do you feel like Kanye has like used his features more to like promote other people's careers rather than just like having them on a song? Because like I feel like in the beginning of his career, when he had a feature, it would be like a regular, like, it's a Kanye song, so he'd have his verse, he would probably do like a chorus kind of thing, then do another verse, and then like the feature would do like one more verse. But like
Yeah.
since Life of Pablo, right, like he's had songs where like it almost doesn't even feel like it's his own song. Like it feels like he's a feature.
Yeah.
And like, you got like, Young Thug doing like a verse, and then you have like, I don't know, somebody else doing a verse, and then somebody else doing a verse, and it's like he only has like one verse on his own song. So like
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like he's kind of used more of his features lately to kind of like promote their kind of career?
So I like that question, because that's what I've been kind of thinking, especially with this album. Because Life of Pablo, I think he had a lot of features, but they were more traditional in the chorus or verse. With, say, something like I love these, even though I love all the songs like Moon, he
Hmm.
has like a few vocals on Moon, and it's
Hmm.
his song, but it really sounds like a Don Toliver song, or a
Yeah.
Kid Cudi, even with featuring
Hmm.
Don Toliver, or even Hurricane. It feels like a Weeknd featuring Lil Baby, and then kind of just has a verse at the end.
Hmm.
I don't know. So I go back and forth with that, because Or even Praise God. He doesn't have a verse on Praise God. Him and Travis Scott
Hmm.
are going line for line at some point, but then Travis Scott has a short verse, and then Baby Keem has like half the song himself.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth in terms of, is it he's kind of relying on these artists? Not, I don't think it's as much promoting
Hmm.
as you said, but I think it might be more reliant on these
Hmm.
artists to kind of carry the show, or
Hmm.
it could either be that, or it could be he's just great at putting, he's like, I'm putting together great music, whether it's me or someone else singing or rapping it.
Hmm.
So that's where I struggle with it, because you'll get songs where like like we're talking about Jesus Lord, like he obviously Jay Electronica has a great verse, but he raps his ass off on Jesus Lord or Jesus
Yeah.
Lord. And there's, what's the other one? Tell the Vision, he raps really good.
Hmm.
Um Keep My Spirit Alive, he raps really good. And I think when there's like a straight like rapper like going, like when on Jesus Lord he has Jay Electronica, on uh Keep My Spirit Alive he has West Side Gun, and what's the other from Griselda? West Side Gun and Machine Conway, or something. I'm messing it up, and my brother's gonna hate me because he loves them. They're from Buffalo, New York. That's who I want to listen to next.
Okay.
But so it feels like, when he has to rap, he's rapping, but like again, when he's not having to really rap, like
Hmm.
he doesn't do that. So I'm kind of in the middle where some songs like he just feels reliant, like I said with Moon or Hurricane, or Praise God, but then other ones where he's like, well, he is really rapping on these other songs. So I'm like kind of conflicted, and I feel like it kind of can go for specific songs where I'm like he's relying on them,
Yeah.
or he's using them strategically. So I
Yeah.
think it's kind of a mix on that. Um,
Yeah, because I've always felt like, a lot of people hype up Kanye a lot, and I don't want to say hype up in like a bad way, but like he had a good stretch where like in the beginning of his career, like he was
he
like a
didn't
solid
miss.
rapper.
He didn't.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah, that too.
his rapping was like really good, but some people always forget that like he started off as a producer.
Yeah,
So Kanye is really more like a producer first, then kind of like a lyricist almost in a way.
yeah.
And like I said, I feel like with like, college dropout, late registration, graduation, all
Graduation.
the way up to like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like he was on a good rap run.
Yeah,
Like he had really good bars. And so I feel like now like it's more like he's like almost kind of like running out of things to rap about.
yeah,
And so he wants to, but he wants to keep making music, and he wants to stay relevant. So like he's gonna put more of his soul now into making more beats again, and making better production. And I'm like dropping a couple verses, and then having like some guests who like can really like do what they do.
yeah.
So I just always felt that way. I always felt like in the beginning of his career, he was like he had a solid rap run,
He could
and
rap
now,
in the
yeah, and
beginning.
now, yeah, and he still can too.
Yeah, if
But
he on the few tracks he does, but
yeah,
it's
I
not
don't think he can
consistent.
do it. Yeah, it's not consistent, and I also feel like he doesn't do it. He can't do it for like very long, which is again part of my problem with this album is that it's 2 hours, and like I don't know. I probably don't know. There's very few rap artists in the world that could probably rap very good for 2 hours. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So like I feel like with this album, especially like if he wanted to have like all these ideas and stuff on different tracks, like he was gonna need a lot of help. So I just kind of feel like, we've seen a lot more features from him because he's like not really at the peak of his rap game anymore, but he
yeah,
still wants to stay relevant.
yeah, and still put out. I would say quality music. It's not bad music. It just his bar was set so high, so like immediately,
Right.
that it has to live up to that bar,
Yep.
and it doesn't always. But that doesn't mean it's like bad music.
Yeah.
Um, no, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say too, like, because I know we're comparing like Kanye and Drake, but I feel the kind of same way about Drake. But I feel like
Oh, we'll
Drake
get into
doesn't
that.
have, yeah, I know, but I feel like he doesn't have the production in his pocket that Kanye can use. Like Kanye could just easily like, okay, like I'm not feeling the rap, or like I'm not feeling like rapping, or like I don't have a lot to rap about. Then he can just be like, all right, I'm just gonna make some sick beats and have some other people drop on them, and
Yep.
it'll still be my song, and they're still gonna be like, credited to me, but I'm just making the beats and these guys are rapping. Whereas Drake, like Drake has to rap because he can't produce his own, like he's never done it before.
Yeah.
So Drake, it's either like I'm either on point with my rapping or I miss completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like Kanye has that advantage.
Yeah. So one last thing I wanted to say before we talk about Certified Lover Boy. It's been all Donda so far. So I actually I think it was this week or last week, I listened to an interview with Mike Dean, and he was talking about the process behind Donda. And he said that the listening events, Kanye had those for a reason. He filled the stadiums with people to show them his new body of music. Like, obviously, that's the point. But
Yeah.
the point of actually for them was to get live reactions from people to see how they digested and how what they liked and what they didn't like by the crowd.
Mhm.
So that's why he had three, because after the first one, then he made edits, and then after the second one, he made edits, and the third one, then he made some more edits, but then he was able to release it. So I thought that was, because I was like like we were talking about like three listening albums, like I was getting exhausted, but I wish, obviously, it takes kind of if he told people, then it would kind of take some of the real, the genuine part of it out, because if
Mhm.
people knew, then they would be like reacting crazy and then being like booing. And so it's more of just he was reacting off of feeding off the people, see what they thought of the songs, or how they reacted to certain parts of songs, and kind of building off of that. So I thought that was pretty cool, and a good explanation for the listening events, where I was like, oh, I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense. Obviously, with what we're saying, he always has a point, and kind of
Mhm.
ruins the point if you tell people, but it's like, I wish you just told me already. I would have just waited till, was it August 27th to,
Yeah.
or no, not August 23rd.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was really cool. So what is your favorite song off Donda before we go to Certified Lover Boy?
I really think it's Off the Grid. Like
Yeah.
I really love that song, and like I said, it's everything. Like I believe, I'm pretty sure Kanye has a verse on it, right? If I'm
Yeah.
most of these songs just blend together at some point, so it's
Yeah.
like I forget like which ones he has a verse on and which one he doesn't. But yeah, I just think I'm pretty sure like I liked his verse. I love Playboy Cardi's part.
Yeah.
Obviously I said I loved Fivio Foreign's verse on there too, but I also just, again, just the production, like the beat is really good.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's I would say I give that one a little bit of an advantage, but it's a tie between that one and Believe What I Say.
Yeah. The Lauryn Hill
I love,
sample's great.
yeah, I love that Lauryn Hill sample, and I think Kanye does a good job on that song too, especially with his chorus. Like the chorus on that song is really good.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a tie between those two. How about you? What's your favorite track?
So I don't know if you even might, because it was towards the end, so you might not even, it might have all blended in, but Come to
Yeah.
Life, I don't know if you even
Okay.
remember that, but I love that song. I just think it's the way the production and the way he sing. I always liked his singing, even though it's not that good. I just
Yep.
you could feel I don't know, you could always feel whatever emotion he's trying to convey, I think,
Okay.
with his singing. So that, and I also love Praise God, because it's him and Travis Scott, and it's dark
Yeah.
and it hits, and I love his mom on the chorus. So those are my
Yeah.
two favorite songs on
Yeah.
Donda.
The last thing I want to say about it, in that I thought of this, and it's going to be a weird comparison or like a weird analogy, but I feel like every time I think of Donda, I think of like going to a poetry club, like just like going to like see people like perform poetry on a stage. But like, so it's just like, it's Kanye is just up on the stage and like doing his thing, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere in the back, like you see like Jay-Z come out, and then the next time you see,
Yeah.
The Weekend, and then you just see all these people just kind of coming from backstage, but
Yeah.
it's Kanye's show, so like he's up there like spitting his poetry, and then people are just coming in from behind and just like joining him. It's like a big poetry club. That's just how I feel about it. Like it's, again, I like a lot of the features. And I think that if anything is going to keep me interested in this album and keep coming back to it, it's going to be like those features, like, the
Yeah.
Fivio and the Jay-Z and Playboy and, all those
The
guys. So
Weekend or
yeah.
whoever.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. That's once you said that, that just kind of like, you can literally visualize it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right, now we'll get into the other album, Certified Lover Boy by Drake. Kind of went into the whole release and everything like that.
Mm.
So, after a few listens, did you listen to it? Because you listened to it when we talked at Matt's wedding.
Yep.
But obviously, have you listened to it again since?
Yeah, I've listened to it a couple times. Obviously, it's I am a big Drake fan, so I'm always going to give it its due diligence, and I've
Yeah.
listened to it a few times. So yeah.
So yeah, Drake is how kind of like reversed, and not obviously. I would say I'm currently a bigger Kanye fan than you are a Drake fan, but
Yeah.
Drake was your guy. I remember when, what was it? Nothing Was the Same dropped. We were in college. If you're reading this, it's too late. I was surprised. You're like, Drake dropped an album, and then
Yeah, I
freaking
think
out.
I woke you up. I think I woke you up at like 2 a.m. You were sleeping, and I came into your room.
Probably,
like,
yeah.
Gotta get up.
Yeah, Drake dropped. I was like, all right. But yeah, so that's how Drake was your Kanye in the sense.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start with it.
All right.
His album, I think Drake's one thing Drake does great on every album is he has a strong intro and a strong outro. I think his intro songs are always strong and his
Hmm.
outro songs are just as strong. So I
Yep.
think on this album, The Remorse to me is one of his best outros.
I would totally agree.
I think it's just because he's always lyrical on the intro and the outro, and he kills it on Remorse. I can't say the same for the intro.
Hmm.
I think it's one of his weakest intros
Yeah.
because he had he had Tuscan Leather. Tuscan Leather is crazy. Over
Hmm.
My Dead Body kills it. Legend from If You're Reading This Too Late was great.
Yeah.
But I think compare like, and it's not bad. It's still like I said, they're both. He always has a solid intro, and this album's nothing's
Hmm.
different. But the outro is, I think, one of his best, and then his intro is one of his weakest.
Hmm.
But going back to that, Champagne Poetry is uh, the title of the first song, and the title of the second song is Poppy's Home.
Yeah.
If you didn't realize, his Instagram and Twitter handle are Champagne Poppy and
Hmm.
Champagne Poppy. I thought that
Yeah.
was a little funny.
Classic Drake, though, right?
Yeah, I
Typical.
know, right?
Like
He got us.
the corniness just has to.
Yeah. What do you, all right? So we talked about the Donda cover. So what do you think of the Drake cover?
Oh, it's stupid.
Yeah,
But and he's had some pretty bad like album covers.
I
Like
don't think so.
no,
I don't think I over. No, I say Over My Dead Body. Thank Me Later was for the time it wasn't bad. Take Care though
yeah,
is still a good album cover. Nothing
yeah,
was the same as it was cool.
it's alright.
It's like looks like a giraffe. Uh,
Yeah,
if reading is too late, it's just handwriting, so you can't really.
yeah,
And
but views is
I
clearly
thought, see,
photoshopped.
yeah, I thought Views is kind of corny, and Scorpion I think is what he's just in a hoodie with a tied
Yeah,
in Aubrey
yeah,
Graham. That
yeah,
one I can give you, but I don't think his albums are that bad, but this one takes the cake.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yep. Yeah. It's just it's when I saw it for the first, obviously I saw the cover before I even played the album, and I just looked at it and I was like, it's just like lazy,
Yeah,
and that's I'll get into more of that later because it's not just the album cover that's lazy, but yeah, it's just lazy and just I don't know, I I don't know. I have no words for it. I was just shocked to see that was the album cover, and yeah,
yeah. I just think like 12 pregnant women emojis. Like,
right.
I guess you're a certified lover boy. I get it.
Yeah.
But actually, kind of before I go more into what I was going to say about CLB, they actually have a lot of the same features. You have a Jay-Z feature,
Hmm.
you have a Travis Scott feature, you have a
Yep.
who else? Lil Durk. Uh,
Hmm.
when we'll talk about this at the end with kind of comparing the features on both albums, um, and also with Drake, kind of going back into the intro of this album. He's Drake. He's going to outsell everyone besides what Taylor Swift, I would say.
Yeah.
Beyonce, maybe. I
Hmm.
think he'll outsell Beyonce, but he's going to outsell everyone regardless. I don't care. Everyone could release in the same day. He's still going to outsell everyone.
Hmm.
That's just Drake. But so uh, and he's always going kind of with that. He's always going to have hits. It's Drake. He's going to have, I think, Way Too Sexy. That's a hit. That's his first single. It's perfect because it's corny like the album cover, but I just love that song. I think Future steals the show on that.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Because I think Future steals the show every time they're on a track together. Future, besides the one on Dirty Sprite too, where you at, where you at.
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
Drake steals that, but every other song, especially like recent, Future
Yeah.
steals it every time.
Hmm.
Girls Want Girls, I think that's actually a really good song with Lil Baby. I think I think the idea of the song, they did it perfectly. I'm not saying like that's the most original, but like both their verses are perfect, and the chorus is like they just did that type of song perfect, I
Hmm.
think. And Knife Talk, 21 Savage, man, that's like my favorite song right now. He kills it.
Hmm.
21 Savage, I think Drake does really good too on that, but 21 Savage just he's so like I think because he does gangster rap so well and like street rap, but he's so calm.
Hmm.
He's not like yelling or anything. He's not very
Yeah.
loud. He's just like, I'm gonna kill you and
Yeah.
I'm gonna scalp you or so. Like he's gonna say something wild and be like,
Yeah. Yep.
he's like putting you to bed, but he's gonna murder you and your family. Like, okay,
Yeah.
but
He's
he
gonna
kills
rock you to
that.
sleep before he kills you.
Yeah, exactly. And then Fair Trade, I don't like Drake's part as much, but I do love Travis Scott's part, and I also love I don't like the first half of In Too Deep, but I love the second half when Future goes in.
Hmm.
Future kills that like he did on Way Too Sexy. I think Future the beat they do the beat switch where Drake does like the softer side now, and Future does the
Yeah.
trap, and Future just washes Drake. I think every time. Kind of on
Hmm.
Grammys too. They did Grammys, then Future comes on, and Future just kills it. And I love 7 a.m. on Brittle Path.
Okay.
I think that's one of his best like rap
Hmm.
lyricism performances of his career. I
Okay.
think he goes in, and then like I said, In Too Deep, and then I love TSU also. TSU,
Hmm.
it's just very Houston, and it's
Yeah.
very like strip clubby, but it's that's like same with Girls Want Girls. I think he did that type of song like
Hmm.
perfect. And then so how do you feel about CLB? What are your highs, I guess you would say, from CLB?
Well, so I would say for me, like I really enjoyed a lot of like again, it's almost kind of like Donda 2 for me. Like I really enjoyed a lot of the first few tracks.
Yeah,
Like I would agree Champagne Poetry is not like the best intro he's ever done.
still
Especially
good.
because it's good, but it's nothing like some of the ones that you said, like Over My Dead Body or Tuscan Leather or anything like that. So it was an okay intro, I thought. Poppy's Home, I loved it. I
You
would.
like that song?
I do like it. I would.
Oh
I
my
would
god,
like
that's
it
my
a little
least
bit.
favorite.
Really?
I can't stand. I skip that shit every time.
I see. I really like kind of the soul sample that they use
Okay.
for like the beat there, and also like the only thing that I would want to be a little bit better about it is that if Nicki actually had a verse.
Yeah.
If and I still laugh like when she is doing like that little ad lib and then it like
Yeah.
kind of rewinds and then she starts like laughing like a really creepy ass laugh, and
Yeah.
I laugh every time she does that. So
Yeah.
um
Pay me
so I
child support the other way.
yeah, exactly. So like I don't know, like I just again, this whole album to me was a vibe. Like and if you want to vibe like that, one of those songs like Poppy's Home or Way Too Sexy, like it's a vibe. Like he's gonna make a song that you just like vibe out to, good
Yeah.
time. Don't really have to think about the lyrics because again, he doesn't really have much to say at this point in his career. Um so I kind of dug that, and it was a good track to just like start things off a little bit. And I feel like a lot of the songs, even the songs that I enjoy, I still find like a gripe in,
Yeah.
like Girls Want Girls. Like I do love that song. I think Baby kills him on the track,
Yes. He
but
kills
but
it.
I still think that they're good together. But like, are you really trying to tell all of us that Toronto's the only place that has lesbians? Like, is that
Yeah.
what you're trying to say? Like, so like, it's just like that corny part of like, oh, you're a lesbian, well, me too. Well, it's like, oh, I didn't know you were a girl that likes girls, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but anyway, but so there's like it's like
Like a
things like that,
stretch.
Yeah, it's a stretch. It's like kind of corny. In the Bible is kind of the same way. Like I like Lil Durk's verse a lot better than his. And
Really? All
yeah,
right.
like I
Well, I
I just
agree. I think Lil Durk kills it way better on Donna than he does on this, though. I think his verse
oh
is way better.
yeah,
It sounds
yeah,
like
for
he's
sure.
just promoting his girlfriend's cosmetic
Yeah.
line. Like on this, he's like, Drake's song gets 1 billion streams. I'm gonna promote my girl.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. I think I remember the Little Dirk verse on Donda, and I would say yeah, like if you're comparing Little Dirk verses, like yeah, his on
Yeah,
Donda's is way better. But in terms of like this
just the
one song
song.
on Drake's album, like I think Dirk is rapping better than Drake is rapping on that
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
So and then there's the Jay-Z track, which I think it's fine.
I think it's
They've
it's probably their dullest one. They always have. I
yeah,
think they like to this day. Pound Cake is like it's still
yeah.
it's one of my favorite Drake songs. It's so they're going at each other, like not at each other, but they're just competing at such a just trying to out rap each other. And I think they both kill it.
Yeah. Yep. So, and it's good to see, like again, like kind of like I said with Donda, like it's good to see like Jay Z and Drake kind of like together and like almost like friends in a way.
Yeah,
Because if you think about it, Jay Z's been on half of Drake's studio albums,
yeah.
right? Like he was on the first one. He wasn't on Take Care. He
Or
was on
nothing.
Nothing
Oh,
Was the
nothing was the
Same.
same. Yeah,
Yep. I don't think he was on Views, but then he came back on
Scorpion.
Scorpion. So
Yeah,
like they have a good relationship and a good connection, and I feel like Drake is kind of like almost like the Jay-Z of our time,
He
especially in
is.
terms of like selling,
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see like Jay-Z was like the before and Drake is like the now, and they're kind of like working it out together, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I like that. I obviously like Fair Trade a lot with Travis Scott. I like Drake's kind of like that refrain that he does about I've stopped making friends and I started making peace, and it's a fair
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Like I like kind of like that idea for like a chorus or like a refrain. Um,
Yeah.
Way Too Sexy, I think, is just it's just like
It's like you.
the sample. You're
Yeah.
listening to that song for the sample, really.
Yeah.
And I think that Future, like you said, kind of adds a good twist to it.
Yeah.
And even Young Thug at the back end of it, like Young Thug, like is just doing like his thing, and he's always kind of like a silly rapper.
Yeah.
And I think that he fits on it because he's a silly rapper, but this is like a silly ass song.
Yeah.
So he kind of fits the narrative.
Yeah.
And again, that's just another example of like, I feel like I'm going to listen to that song more for Future and Young Thug than Drake. So, so that's how I feel about that. TCU I like as well. But the two tracks you kind of talked about them already that like really stand out to me are Knife Talk, because 21 Savage on that track, like he's great, and Drake isn't that bad either, but it makes me want to like see them do an album together.
Yeah.
Because if 21 Savage, Drake, and they got on an album with like Metro Boomin, which
Yeah.
21 Savage always works with, like
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a pretty good album if they're rapping like they did on this track.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like if they were to do like a partnership album or like a duo album, I think I would be more interested in that than I am with this album right now.
Yeah. I would
So,
too.
so I love that track. I think towards the end it kind of gets a little bit like it kind of overstays its welcome. I think they should have kept going like back to back with verses.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a great track. And then The Remorse, like Drake is always like, if he does one thing good every single album, it's coming up with like a finishing track for an
Yeah.
album.
He can close
And
very well.
yeah, and one problem that I had with this album too was like there wasn't a lot of moments where I was like when he raps and I'm like, oh, that was a bar, or like, oh, that was really good. I didn't feel that way at any of these tracks up until that last one. And the
Yeah.
line on The Remorse that like really like got me was when he says something like, said you're like a father figure to me, but now daddy's not around, so I'm a bastard. Like
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, like that was a line. And like I don't, again, there's always with Drake, there's always the whole like a ghostwriter, right? Like
Yeah.
was that a ghostwriter line? Because none of the lines on any of the other songs, or even like lines on Scorpion, were not that like cold-blooded and hard.
Yeah.
And even there was another line in that track too about like don't Google my net worth because the numbers are off or something. Like I laughed at that. I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. So like that was like that was a good track with a lot of good bars in it. And it's all like the same thing with Drake is all the time. It's like, where is that consistently?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
if this album had bars like that, bars that were like on If You're Reading This It's Too Late, like you would have a great album. But it seems like a lot of times you're just like putting in like all these filler tracks. Like the other one that I was going to talk about was You Only Live Twice. Like that is literally just a like redo of that song that Rick Ross was on Take Care. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Lord Knows.
Lord Knows. Yep.
So that's basically like, this is basically just like a Lord
Featuring Lil
Knows
Wayne.
Part 2 featuring Lil Wayne. And
And
Lil
they're all
Wayne's
not.
verse. What were you gonna say?
No, and they're all not good verses.
Yeah, no, they're not. And like Lil Wayne's verse is basically just like I feel like his verse is like the motto kind of verse. So it's almost like he just like took like a remake of Lord Knows and then put like a Lil Wayne the motto verse on the end of it. Like, you know what I mean? It's just lazy. Like
I thought it was
you're trying to do this for streams. Like everybody's going to click on a song that says You Only Live Twice because you had a song called The Motto, and that was like a big thing back then. So you're making,
and you have it's you, Rick Ross and Lil Wayne. You guys have always made good songs together, or either like you and Rick Ross, or you and Lil Wayne, or Lil Wayne and Rick Ross. Like you guys always, they have good chemistry, all three of them. So it would make sense that like you said for streams, because I was like, oh man, that was one of the songs I was excited for. Then I listened to it and I was like, this is ass.
Yeah, it's like it's like, you remember when we used to drink Mad Dog in college, and we were like, oh my god, this looks great, like the color, the bottle that it comes in, like it looks great, and then you take it and it's just like, this is not that good. Like this is so disappointing. It's so bland. It's so
Yeah.
plain. And like that's just how I feel, not just about this album, but like I also kind of feel that way about like Scorpion too. And
Scorpion was, yeah,
you know,
that was
it's
way
just
too long.
yeah, and I feel like he's run out of things to say. Like, you know, we know that you're a bachelor. You know, we know that you live this like bachelor life. We know that you don't like Kanye. We know that you know, like you were an actor and people gave you crap for being an actor and being like you know, not black enough or whatever. Like we get all of it. And it's
Yeah.
just like I feel like he's just run out of things to say. And and even that song with like was it like no friends in the industry?
Yeah.
Your album is filled with different features. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the only people that you don't get along with these days are Kanye and Pusha T. Like,
Yeah.
you have Kid Cudi on your album. You hated
Yeah.
Kid Cudi.
You
So,
made fun of his mental health like a few years ago.
right. So, like, what are you talking about? And I'm at the point now where I'm feeling like, you know, early in his career, I'm sorry, I'm venting,
It's all good.
but like, early in his career, like I felt like whenever he would make a song or an album, I was like, okay, like I feel that, you know, like I feel how you're feeling. But now it's like to the point where it's like, maybe you're part of the problem. Like everything that you're rapping about, like maybe it's you. Maybe it is
Yeah,
you. It's
complaining about
not
all
these
these
other
women
people.
and
Yeah.
all these other people.
Like why are you still single with, you know, like one with a kid and you're not like with the woman? Like, you know, like maybe it's you. Maybe you are the problem now. And like but like he still continues this like persona of like, oh, like feel bad for me and oh, do this and oh and I have this great life. And it's like, okay, great, but like we already know that. We've known that for 5 albums before this one.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, come up with something else to say. And I just feel like that's where I lose it on this album.
So I'm actually gonna just I had some stuff to say, and I was actually kind of just going off of what you said.
Yeah.
To me, it and what I'm gonna say basically is what you're saying. It feels like I'm listening to the same album over and over
Mhm.
again, just
Yeah.
with newer production and
Mhm.
different features, but it's the same content over and over. I feel like
Yeah.
I wrote down, I feel like I've heard this album before. I'm like, songs like Pipe Down, No
Mhm.
Friends in the Industry, Get Along Better, Race My Mind, Fountains, which Fountain sounds like a um One Dance or one of those, but just not as good.
Yeah.
Just a bad version. And then Fucking
Mhm.
Fans. Those songs, I feel like I'm like,
Yep.
those weren't on Views or those weren't on Score. Like I feel like I've heard these before. It's just
Right.
it's the same thing. And then to me on the flip side, I feel like his features were either bad features or they washed him.
Mhm.
Like there was no like besides Knife Talk. That's the only one where I'd be like, all right, they actually went like toe to toe.
Mhm.
Lil Baby killed him. I think Jay-Z
Yeah.
killed him.
Yeah.
Future killed him twice. And I wrote 21 Savage, but Drake is very good on that song. And then
Yeah.
on the other side, personally, I don't like the Lil Durk verse. I just think because it was so close to the Donda verse, and I was like, this is really good. And then I was like, I think just the fact that he to me, it seems like he's literally just promoting his girlfriend's
Yeah.
cosmetic line, which, hey, no shame to you. You do what you got to do.
And a perfect platform to do that on a Drake album. Like
Exactly.
if you're
Perfect.
gonna do that on any person's album, do it on Drake's, right?
Which
So
I can't hate on him. It's just like, all right, I
right,
get it.
yeah,
I personally don't like. Like I said, I'm a fan of Young Thug. I do not like his verse on "Way Too Sexy."
mhm,
I just like where he says "Todayski," but I don't. I personally don't like it. And then like I said, Rick Ross and Young and Lil Wayne. I
yeah,
We didn't need that song. And then,
right,
last but not least, Kid Cudi. What the fuck? And it's not really Kid Cudi's fault.
yeah,
This song should have been on "Thank Me Later" the way it sounded.
mhm,
It sounds like it's from 2011.
yeah,
The way Kid Cudi's like the way he used to use like I don't know, it sounded like a sharp like his he's always gonna have melodies, but it was like sharper and the way it used to sound. I feel like his
mhm,
melodies got a little softer as he got like as he's grown and gotten older. But it was
mhm,
just I feel like this song would have been great in 2011, 10
mhm,
years ago,
yeah,
#1 on the charts.
yep.
2021, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So
Well, and maybe it was, you know, like I feel like a lot of times people, but seriously, like I feel like a lot of
yeah,
times people are like, oh, like you know, Drake and Kid Cudi have had this beef for a long time, but oh, but now they have a track out together, so they're good. Well, Drake could have easily recorded that song a long time ago, and then just like said like, hey, Cudi, like I want to release a song now. Can you like sign the rights to it? And like, okay,
yeah,
yeah, sure. So it could have.
yeah.
I don't think that it would go that
Yeah.
far, but like who knows?
I
I don't
agree.
know.
It was like it didn't feel current.
Yeah.
Like I'm
No.
like, okay. But yeah, so that did you have anything else to say about either of those albums before we move on to the next discussions of the albums?
I Yeah, I do. Two
Okay.
things. So where I'm at with Drake is kind of like where I was at like with Kanye. Like so like Kanye, like I hate to say it and I hate to be like so hurtful because he's one of my favorite artists when I was growing up. But like I just don't care anymore. Like I don't care
It's
about
there's
like
too much hoopla around it.
yeah, like I'm just like
Hoopla!
yeah, like I don't so like I'm kind of done with Kanye and I feel like if Drake kind of keeps going in the direction that he was going in, like I'm gonna be done with him too.
I
Like
understand. Yeah.
at some point, you know? And that leads me to like my second thing is just that like I feel like both albums, you know, you can compare them to like you're blue in the face, right? Like there's so many differences between the two, but then there's so many similarities. But the one similarity that I can't like get past is the fact that both of them just have so many features and so many features with like people that I'm like more excited to hear. You know,
Yeah.
I'm always going to be excited for a Travis Scott album, and it's getting to the point where like I'm going to be excited for his next album more than I am excited for the next Kanye and Drake album.
Yeah.
Same with like Lil Durk. Like I just personally like Lil Durk. I
I
think
like
he's
him
great.
too.
You know,
I'm more of a fan of Lil Baby, but I like both a lot.
yeah. So and Little Baby the same way. Like I've never been big on Little Baby coming up, but since he released that album
Me
with
too.
Lil Durk, I'm excited to hear about Little Baby again. You
Yeah.
know, and especially some of the bars that he dropped on that album and the bars that he dropped on Certified Lover Boy and Donda. I think he
Yeah.
was on Donda too, right?
Yeah. On Hurricane.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so like I'm just excited. I'm just excited for all of those guys, and I feel like you know I don't know who it is yet, but there's gonna be somebody up and coming that's gonna like catch my interest the way Drake and Kanye used to do it. You
Yeah.
know, like I feel like they've kind of had their moment of being like basically the biggest like people in hip hop,
Yeah.
and now they've kind of like are like moving aside, and there's like other people coming up, and it's gonna be interesting to see like who is gonna be the next two. You know,
Yeah, because I think
so
it's Lil Baby's like taking that now, but I don't know if
yeah,
he's big and he's probably the biggest like besides Drake and Kanye and like there's obviously like the cemented people like Drake, Kanye, Kendrick, Cole, like
yeah,
these guys are cemented.
right.
But out of like anyone else, I would say Lil Baby's the top guy right now, and
Mhm.
then like Lil Durk probably, and then but like I guess Travis Scott, but he's this might be too early, but I think he's almost cemented in the terms of he's not like if you're saying top five rappers, he's never going to touch that list. But in terms of the brand, how big he is
Mhm.
in terms of like the sneakers, the merch, the tours, the he's just
Mhm.
so he's bigger than just like he's bigger than Lil Baby just because of everything. But you're talking about the music, Lil Baby's running hip hop right now. I think.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, and I would even I would disagree. I think that he can be a top five rapper because it all depends. Like it depends
it
on if
depends on
you
everyone. Yeah, I was just gonna
it
say that.
it depends on like how you view it, right? Like a lot of people will say like a lot of people like Stephen A. Smith, like on like ESPN, right? He's all about the resumes, right?
Yeah,
So like if you have a great resume, you're going to be a top, you know, tier
yeah,
quarterback, whatever, until you're done, right? Whereas like somebody like Max Kellerman, when they would debate each other, Max Kellerman was more like, I'm talking about like right now, and like
yeah,
I wouldn't like after these two efforts, like I wouldn't put Drake in top five
yeah,
anymore. Like I just wouldn't. Maybe
yeah,
maybe Kanye because Kanye can still rap, but he doesn't do it enough. You
yeah.
know, so like so I don't know like when you think about all the other people that are left, like you still have Cole, you still have Kendrick, even though he hasn't done anything in a while,
Yeah,
right? So but you still have Cole and Kendrick. I think 21 Savage,
21
he could fit
Savage.
his way in there because he again was another person that like wasn't amazing in the beginning, but
He's gotten
recently
better.
like he's gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
So you have him, you have Travis, you have Little Baby, like you have Little Dirk. Little Dirk's been around for a while, but he's
yeah. He
finally
was
getting like
around like 10 years
yeah,
already.
yeah, but he's finally getting like the moment, you know.
Yeah, I
So
like Polo G too. I don't know if you've listened to him much. Polo G's good.
yeah, I've heard a little bit of him, but yeah, but like you know, I think Travis could fit in like a top five because again, it depends on how you view it. Like if you're viewing it based on resume, like you know, you're gonna have your typical you know Nas,
Nas,
Drake,
Jay Z.
Jay
I feel like
Z,
the
Pac,
top five was always like it was always like Jay Z, Eminem, Jay Z, Nas, Biggie, Tupac, and then everyone always had a fifth where there was
right?
Eminem,
Eminem,
Andre 3000.
yeah,
Some people said like Rakim or something like that. It was always those
yeah,
four. But I think now, especially because just going to keep growing and
yeah,
evolving and changing, that top five, like that, oh, everyone always had those four. Like
yeah,
in mine, only one of those guys is in my top five.
hmm
It's Jay Z.
Mhm.
but I respect that. Like they're all legends, but it's just, and that's just how it's gonna keep going. If 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everyone had those four in their top five and someone else, but then it's just gonna keep growing where you might not see any one of those people in your top five eventually, just because that's it's hip hop was still so young and the golden era, as some people like to say it.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own opinion, but I think it's just gonna it like you're saying, it's gonna evolve where like personally, Travis Scott's like I said, my second favorite.
Mhm.
If I'm gonna make like top five best of overall music, like in hip hop, yeah, I'll have him in there. But if like a lot of people just say in the traditional sense, who's the top five best rappers, and they like always say those four and then someone else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So anyway, I'm just excited to because I think that Drake's time, like while he's still getting the charts and getting the numbers and all that stuff, like his time has kind of come.
Yeah,
Like
his
it's
reign's coming to an end. You can
like
feel it now.
yeah, like he need like his next album has to be like something special for him to stay on top because
Yeah,
at this point, like we've been waiting now. I've really been waiting since if you're reading this is too late for him to drop like a good project. Like I liked Views, but
yeah, it had
I
some weak
wouldn't put it
points.
yeah, I wouldn't put it anywhere near, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. Even So Far Gone is one of my favorites from him.
Yeah,
So like I wouldn't put it in that category.
yeah,
And from
definitely.
there, it just kind of kept going downhill. So like I feel like his next album has to be something spectacular. Or he's gonna start losing people. So
Yeah. So before we go into the next topic, I just want to say something real quick. So I was listening to this podcast the other day. It's not a music one, but they just were talking about Drake and Kanye and stuff. And one of the guys said, Drake is like the McDonald's of hip hop. Like he's just McDonald's is number one. It's not going to change, but that
yeah,
doesn't mean it's good.
right, yeah,
So that's
that's
Drake.
it's a very good analogy.
Drake, like initially, like, hey, McDonald's when they first came out, they're probably banging,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
over the years now, McDonald's is just crap. So
and it's always better when you're drunk too.
exactly.
So Drake is always better when you're drunk, but
Um,
same with
uh,
McDonald's.
or and when you're just get over a breakup, McDonald's probably hits slaps harder. Drake, you
Yeah.
just broke up with someone. Drake
Yep.
probably slaps
Exactly.
even harder.
Yep.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about, we'll go over real quick, is to you, where does Donda rank in Kanye's discography, and then where does CLB rank in Drake's discography to you?
I, I I thought about this for a while, but I think both fall last in both of their catalogs.
Wow.
Like I think Certified Lover Boy, like I might put it over Scorpion, um, but it's like a tie between those two. Like
Yeah.
Scorpion and Certified Lover Boy are never going to be better than all the things that he did before that.
Yeah.
Unless you're considering More Life as like a album, which I don't really consider that an album.
I
Um,
didn't.
no, yeah. So in terms of just like the studio albums, like those two for me for Drake are like his worst. And then Donda, I feel Donda I'd have to listen to a little bit more just to kind of like actually like appreciate it for whatever it is. But like when I look at all of his other albums, like I still like I think about all how much I like them. Even like again like Life of Pablo and Ye, like I actually enjoyed those albums a lot more than I thought that I would.
Yeah.
Um, and even like I know a lot of people like give shit to Yeezus, but like I personally enjoyed Yeezus a lot because it was just a different sound, and like he was still kind of like in the same like mind space, but it just had like different sounds, and I love how he collaborated with Daft Punk on a lot of songs, which was really
Yeah.
cool. Um, and so yeah, so I really liked that album, and I'm never gonna put like anything that he does past my beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. 808s, I also like I love that, like I love
Yeah.
that album, and a lot of people give that album crap too, but like that album started a whole trend in hip-hop,
Yeah.
and
It's
and it
it's
started
shifted.
a lot. Yeah, it started a lot for a lot of different people, including Drake. Like Drake is a big
Yeah.
kind of like
He
prodigy from
I
that album.
think Drake, and I said this kind of before, and I didn't. I the more I thought about it, the more I disagree with what I said. Was like
Yeah,
there wouldn't be Drake without 808s, and now that I've had time to think about that, it was years ago.
yeah,
Obviously would have been Drake, but I think it made it easier for a guy like Drake to
yeah,
be not only be in hip hop and like known, but obviously
hmm,
to go where no artist has ever gone. So, and obviously
yeah,
not Drake. There's other artists, but obviously Drake's always the topic of discussion, especially with that album and Kanye. I think
yeah.
808s is something that really just he would have gotten in, but it really just like opened up for him.
Right. Yeah. I've always said that 808s was like an influencer for Drake. Like, he still would be around. He would still rap because he did mixtapes before 808s came out.
Yeah,
So he would still be around, but like, there's no way he would be as big as he is now if he didn't kind of like take some of those ideas from 808s and kind of incorporate them into his own music.
yeah,
I think what makes Drake special is that he can make a lot of songs for like anything. Like
yeah,
he can make a heart like a hitter. He can make a diss record. He can make a song that you hear in the club. You can make a song that is like for women to listen to. Like, you know what I mean? Like he
yeah,
can make a song for anybody at any situation. And I think part of that is a tribute to 808s and kind of pushing that for him. You
yeah,
know. So anyway, so going back to like Kanye's catalog, like I'm definitely never going to put Donda in front of College Dropout, Late Registration. I don't even think I'd put it before Graduation. Like I love Graduation.
yeah,
And I think that that's a great album. And then of course, 808's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And then, after that, you kind of get into like the Yeezus and the Life of Pablo and then Donda. Like those three are kind of like on the same level for me.
yeah,
Um, and I just prefer to enjoy Life of Pablo and Yeezus a little bit more. So yeah, so that's just kind of my thought. Like I think both albums for both guys are at the end.
yeah.
How about
I-
you?
So I'll go with Drake first. So for me, I wrote them actually. I just wrote them all down. So I started with Nothing Was the Same. It used to be Take Care, but Nothing Was the Same. Like I think it's aging a little better. And Take
Mhm.
Care is a great album, but Nothing Was the Same is like it's unbelievable. Then I have Views is actually my third favorite of his. I like Views. I don't know why, but I do. Then I said, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Then Certified Lover Boy. Then Scorpion. I can't get into Thank Me Later. I just can never. I've tried a million times. I can't. I don't know what it is. I
Yeah.
can't. I just don't like it. I've
Mhm.
tried. I don't like it. So that's just so Certified Lover Boy is just same kind of similar. Besides Thank Me Later, it's right above Scorpion, and
Yeah.
Scorpion to me is ass.
Yeah.
Um, so with Kanye and Donda, I actually wrote it out and I'm looking at it now and it didn't include, I didn't write Donda on there. So I have to squeeze it in where I remember where I put it. But
Yeah.
so obviously my favorite album of all time is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. That's still number one. I have
Mhm.
College Dropout 2,
Mhm.
808's third, Yeezus fourth, and then I have Donda right in there in the middle. To me, it's a
Okay.
middle of the road album for him. Then I have Life of Pablo, Late Registration, Graduation, Yay, and Jesus is King. Jesus King is just like, don't even mention it. But I just don't like Yay, and we talked about this previously. I just, I just, it's like almost, it's like, it's it might sound really weird, but or not weird, but like stupid. But it's like a normal, like a regular rapper just trying to make an album like Kanye.
Mhm.
Like it doesn't feel like a Kanye album like these, like every other album besides that and Jesus is King. Kanye albums are just like to me on it because he's my favorite, but I think a lot of people too. He has a like we were talking about earlier, like a threshold. Like he has Kanye albums are like average, like or like above average at worst,
Yeah. Yeah.
and those two are just those like are either on the line or just right below it. So it's like,
Mhm.
but I have Donda. To me, it's middle of the pack. So with Life of Pablo, I actually hated it in the beginning. I
Mhm.
loved it, and then I was like, this shit's ass. And then years later, I got back into it, and I was like, oh, this is really good. And Late
Mhm.
Registration, I really like it, and they're all kind of like it's like one day I could say Late Registration is they kind of like fluctuate, but as of right now, I'd say MBDTF, College Dropout, 808, Yeezus, Donda, Life of Pablo, and then Late Registration and Graduation. Graduation to me didn't age well.
Mhm.
It feels very of that time, and I just don't think it was some of his best either.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's where they rank for me. So
Wow.
the yeah the
I'm surprised that Late Registration is so low on your list.
yeah I
I'm
just
surprised.
it's really good. It's like I said, his threshold's above average, but
Yeah.
I just I find myself listening it to it
Mhm.
not as much as the other ones I have before it. So
Yeah.
it probably is like anything we're going to be talking about is all preference. That's the point of
Yeah.
what we're doing here,
Yeah.
just to debate. But I don't know. I just find myself listening to it not as much as the others.
Hmm.
So now obviously we get to the point where we're leading up to the whole episode. Which album is better? I'll let you go first, and then I'll go second.
Ooh, man, it's like I don't know. It's comparing shit to shit. Um, it's, I don't know. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what I'm going to listen to more is Certified Lover Boy,
Okay.
just because I've always been more of a Drake fan than a Kanye fan. I mean, I'm a fan of both of them. I think both of them have, top 10 all time status. Um, but like for me, it's just like, Certified Lover Boy, it's just shorter. It's Drake. So like I've always been a big fan of Drake, and I don't know, like I don't know how many times I'm gonna revisit Donda. Like I said, I
Yeah.
might like go to like my favorite tracks and just be like, oh yeah, like this is awesome. Like I love this song. But like I don't know, like in terms of like album, like I don't know if I would ever go back to listening to Donda from start to finish. So that's just me. Maybe it'll change, and like maybe like I'll have 2 hours to kill one day and just be like, all right, let's do it. But for me,
You got 2 hours.
yeah, like exactly. You gotta prepare for it, right? Like
Yeah.
with Drake, I can
set
bump
the
in the
mood.
car. Yeah, exactly. I can bump in the car. I can listen to it while I'm playing like Xbox and whatever. So I think at the end of the day, like I mean, I don't really plan on revisiting both of these albums a lot, but if I'm gonna revisit one over the other, I think it's gonna be Certified Lover Boy, just because like I have a good relationship, I guess, with Drake, not in
You
terms of
just
like actually like personally, but like it's just he's one of my favorite artists, and there's always going to be times where like, oh, I'm going to listen to this Drake album today or this one, but like with Kanye, like I don't know if I would ever go back to Donda like that.
I,
So that's for me. I think Certified Lover Boy might be for me a better album just to listen to.
I totally can I get that. As I said, my brother's same way. He just listened to it and he's like, it's really good. He's just like, I can't listen to
Yeah,
the whole thing.
it's like a homework assignment. It's
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
So for me, I would say I think it's I made it clear already. Donda is my favorite out of those two. I kind of gave them out of a 10 ranking. I didn't mention that, but I just personally did that. So I give Donda actually an 8 out of 10 in terms of, I think the production, like I said, might be his best, and the features are great. It's too long and it kind of gets overshadowed. And with
Mhm,
CLB, I gave it a 6 out of 10, just because, like I said, it feels like I've been listening to this already.
mhm.
But he has some hits, as he always will, so those get you some points. And then that's also a little long too. I think he could have had some filler out there, but like I said, Drake and Kanye, they've never released anything bad, because that's
Mhm.
just they're that level of artist, so they're never
Yeah.
going to release anything bad. But it's definitely for Drake, and even for Kanye, it's definitely some of on their weaker side of work,
Mhm.
body of work. So I
I
would have to
also
say Donda.
I also wonder too. I just thought of this too. Like, I wonder if Certified Lover Boy didn't do well with like streams and sales, like how would that influence Drake's next album? Because I feel like a lot of times
Wow.
recently, like again, this all goes back to being lazy, right? Like, so he's on the top. He knows he's on the top. He knows that no matter what he put, like he could put out a blank disc and it'll get like a gold status and
Yeah.
break streaming records, right? So like if we like just like didn't cave into that, you know what I mean? Like
That's how I
and
felt
just
about
like
Kanye too.
yeah, and just like let it suck. Like, will he actually be like, oh, okay, I'm no longer at the top. Like I didn't do this, this, and this. So like now I'm actually gonna put together a piece of work that like actually like, is good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like a good piece of work that would be like 11 to 15 tracks long. Why does Drake always have to put out 20 songs?
Yeah.
Because it's streaming, right? So like I just wonder like if this album like because a lot of people haven't liked this album. So I'm wondering if this album had really like tanked, like didn't even reach gold, didn't do like any streaming service like records or whatever, like how would that influence his next project? Because I
Yeah.
feel like that's what needs to happen for him to make another good album is like he needs to suck first,
Yeah,
Like
people he needs like a kick in the butt kind of thing.
right. Yeah,
Like he
exactly.
needs to realize, like, but that's the thing, he's just so pop that he's gonna
Yeah.
see, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon, but hopefully it does, just so we can get better quality music.
Yeah. And I feel like he's not like he's just lacking motivation. Whereas Kanye might put out some stuff that's not great, but Kanye at least is motivated to like go with like a concept,
Yeah.
or like he's motivated to like, oh, this is what it's good. Like, this is going to be Donda. Like, this is what I want. This is the goal. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. Whereas Drake is more just like, yeah, I'll just, do whatever. And, I haven't released an album in 3 years. So, I'll just take a couple tracks that I think are going to do well and send them out, you
Yeah.
know? So like, I feel like he's just not motivated, whereas Kanye is motivated, but it may not always be executed perfectly, but at least he like has the energy to like actually like give us something,
Yeah.
So
Awesome. So I think that was a very good discussion. That was the first episode of the hip hop debate, the new and renewed hip hop debate. Um, so end the show. I just want to go over some things. Um, do you have? So I apologize. Do you have any topic that you want to discuss next week? Do you have any? I wrote a few down, but I want to run it by you and see if you have anything you would want to discuss next week. If not, we can choose one of the ones I wrote down or come up with something together.
Yeah, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got written down, and I'll see if I can stem off of that.
So I said, I wrote three topics down. I said, one, who is the king of New York?
Hmm.
Uh, two, Wu Tang or NWA?
Mm-hmm.
And three, top five most influential rappers of all time.
Hmm.
So we can choose one of those.
Okay.
What are you thinking? Or if you want to do something else, if there's something else you might want to talk about.
I like the top five. Let's make a list. Let's do
top
a list.
Five. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So next week, everyone, we will be doing top five most influential rappers of all time. That should be very good debate because obviously I think we're going to have one or two similar, but I think there are going to be definitely some differences.
Yep.
So choosing albums for each other. This is something that's new to the podcast. Obviously, a lot of things are new to the podcast. It's basically a different podcast now. But what we're going to do now is basically every week we're going to choose an album for the other person to listen to. So it's going to be not same, but one, I'm going to choose one for Kyle to listen to that I don't think he's listened to, or if he has, then I'll choose a different one, and vice versa. We'll keep going back and forth. Once we get to big status, is once this audience grows, then we're going to allow the audience to pick an album for us to listen to, and we'll both talk about it on the podcast. But for right now, we'll just have each other pick. So did you happen to pick an album, or I wrote three down for you to listen to? One of pick one. But if you don't have an album, I'll pick three. But if you have one, I'll definitely go ahead and listen to it.
All right. So are we like do it like? Is it just
no?
Me
It's gonna
giving
be
it to you?
It's gonna be you giving it to me.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I have a good one in mind. So
All right.
My pick for you, I don't know if you've heard it, and tell me if you have. But my pick for you is Big Crit. Forever is a mighty long time.
All right, I have not listened to that, and I'm excited because I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I've heard his features, and I've always liked them. An artist just I never got to listen to. I never went above and beyond to listen to. So,
I think he's very underrated, and I think
I've heard that
this album, it's a double album, so it runs on the long side.
Okay, like Donda.
It's not 2 hours. It might be like an hour and a half, but It's not 2 hours. But yeah, it's just a really good album, and it's a double album, but both sides are just like very like their own. Like one side is completely different than the other. And he's a rapper that I feel like doesn't get enough credit for like some of the stuff that he does. So that's my pick for you, buddy.
All right, so I will listen to Big Crit. And what's the name of it again?
Forever is a mighty long time.
Forever is a mighty long time. So on next week's podcast, I will review that album, talk about what I liked and what I didn't like, and we're also going to talk about what we believe is the top five most influential rappers ever. Thank you, everyone who's listening. Very excited. This is the first episode, and we're just going to keep growing from here. As always, follow on Instagram at The Hip Hop Debate and on Twitter at We Debate Hip Hop. And subscribe wherever podcasts are available: Apple, Google, Spotify. Wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find this podcast. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Deuces.
Peace.